I want to put on my shades for this one.
Yeah.
If you've got a question, the voices of resin are here. Oh, PlastChicks.
PlastChicks is an SPE-sponsored podcast.
Hey, Lynzie, how's it going?
It is just a marvelous day. How's it going with you?
Good. I feel like I'm having trouble hearing you today.
That's a bummer. I think I got all my things in. Well, you know what? We'll just pull the plug. Hold on.
Try again?
Is that better?
Yeah, that's better. Good and loud.
I'll just use my speaking voice.
Maybe it's not better. I don't know.
Well, you've caused this situation. It's happening this way now. So.
All right. I love your
backups.
It sounds good. I love your lipstick shade. I love the chromacity with the chromacity of your top as well. Your sweatshirt.
Yes. When I woke up, I said, "What's the most chromatic?"
Yes.
The first thing I thought.
Wonderful. I love it. I wanted to show off. I should have had this when we did our interview on our PlastChicks session on Color and Appearance Division conference on Monday, but I'm wearing my badge today.
Look at you.
So that's from CAD Retech last year in Cleveland. So I thought, and just to show off, I have more ribbons than you.
Oh, I can make ribbons by the end of this. Don't you fret.
So anyway, I'm Mercedes Landazuri.
And I'm Lynzie Nebel.
I'm design application lead for Techmer PM, and for SPE, I serve on a few boards. I am current chair of the recycling division and counselor for Color and Appearance Division, and then I serve on the board for Chicago as well, but I've been neglecting them a little bit lately.
I've
and
heard
Lynzie?
I am a project engineer at Tech Tank in Erie, Pennsylvania, and I am Vice President of Membership Engagement on the Executive Board for SPE. I'm also on the Injection Molding Board, the Foundation Board, and Northwest PA Board, which clearly I'm neglecting as well because that's fine.
Yeah. Are you guys going to have your golf outing, by the way?
We did not have our golf outing in New York because it was in New York. So there was more restrictions about us Pennsylvanians coming in to their beloved state.
Gotcha. It always cracks me up that the NWPA section's golf outing is in New York.
Listen, it's a nice golf course.
And it's close by. It is
close by. It really is.
Yeah. Actually, our Chicago golf outing is typically during the summer, but we moved it, so it's actually going to be in October. So
frosty. I like it.
Is it next week? It's like the first week in October, I want to say. I should know that. I should know that.
You are definitely neglecting them. It's fine.
Yeah. But anyway, so long intro today, but with our powers combined, we are PlastChicks, the voices of resin. So I'm really excited to be speaking on this during the recycling conference today. By the way, you can listen to our podcast anywhere you get your podcasts: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher. It's released by SPE the first Friday of every month. You can also go to forspe.org/podcasts.
You can rate us. Rate us good stuff. If it's bad, just pretend you didn't feel like rating anyone.
We are the PlastChicks, but we interview both men and women, contrary to popular belief sometimes. And we have actually one of the past chairs of the recycling division on as our guest today. I'm not sure if he's going to be sharing video, but this is podcast, so you can just look at Lynzie and I while we react. But so our guest today is George Staniulis. He is co-owner of AGS Technology, and as I mentioned, past chair of the recycling division. So welcome, George.
Hi.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Well, it's my pleasure, and thank you for the invitation. Yeah.
Now, you have been in the industry for quite some time. your plant is actually very conveniently located right down the street from Techmer's plant in Batavia. And you so graciously gave me a tour last time when pre-COVID, when we were able to do those kind of things. Really, really impressive plant, and very, very clean, which was not always my perception of recycling. And we're going to get into perceptions of recycling in the industry a little bit later in the interview. But tell us, how did you get into the plastics industry, and how did you get into recycling?
Well, it's a long story, time-wise, because I've been
we love long stories.
Yeah, I've been in the industry now, primarily on the recycling side for more than 45 years. So, how I got started in the industry? Actually, when I finished college, I went to school in Detroit, finished from Wayne State, and what I did is I moved out to California, like all young college graduates did at that time, looking to have a little fun and kind of just kind of drifting at that time, but having a great time. So a friend of mine whom I knew before, he was starting a plastic thermoforming company, vacuum forming company. And he looked me up and said, "Hey, I'm starting a company, George. Would you like to join?" And I said, "Sure. Sounds like fun." And so that happened, 68, 69 type time frame. I moved to Chicago, where the operation was, and got involved in the plastic industry. They're more on the thermoforming side, and kind of the company had its ups and downs and bumps, et cetera, and ended up going out of business.
George, I need to interrupt you real quick for a point of clarification. Since my parents did a similar thing when they graduated and moved away from the Midwest to California. But are you saying that you moved away from California during or prior to the Summer of Love?
Well, yeah, it was actually kind of more of a nationwide experience. I wasn't up in San Francisco. I was in the Los Angeles area. They're kind of hanging out with everyone on the beach there. But the answer is yes. I thought it was I was open to everything, any opportunity, anything that sounded good. I really had no roots per se at that time, so I was willing to give everything a try, and it sounded good, and that's what I did there. So. Kind of as like I said, the company went out of business, but what I did is then as I hooked up with another kind of startup, and here it was a company that was basically purchasing scrap acrylic sheet from a company. It's no longer in business, called American Cyanamid, that became Cyro. And what they were doing is they were buying the scrap sheet during the manufacturing operations and trying to find a market for that material, because there was lots of that material that was available. And so we looked at a number of things, which kind of got the sheet, and we tried to cut it down to some workable size where we could market it, like for storm door replacement and glazing, and other types of kind of applications. We sold it in the surplus markets and things like closeouts and stuff like that, and kind of did some. But we really hit on something pretty good, which was selling the sheet to the school systems, to their industrial arts department, and found a real nice market for that material. And kind of as it developed, as what we did is we sent out some notices that we got this acrylic sheet to the industrial arts departments, and lo and behold, over a period of several months, is we were literally getting sacks of mail for purchase orders
Wow.
from the industrial arts department, looking for that, and we were just overwhelmed with business. But
So, so George, this was for CPS, or this was for like a regular K
oh
through
no,
12?
we did it, for the whole country.
Oh, wow.
We bought a mailing list. At that time, that's kind of what you did. You bought a mailing list, and they sent you like with the addresses already on the envelope, and so we just stuffed kind of our literature and inside, and I don't know. I think we sent out something like 11,000 of those things, kind of country.
Wow.
But CPS, the Chicago School System, was one of the ones that we contacted as well, and they bought from us also on that. So it was an exciting time until the normal distributors for Cyro, for American Cyanamid, they didn't like it because that was one of their markets, and so they complained to the powers that be, and they shut us off. Of
Ouch.
getting any, ouch is right, getting any more of that material to basically to provide for that marketplace. So looking
So,
for other markets, what we did is kind of scouring the planet for where we could sell it. And we found out that in some of the third world countries, like in India, Taiwan, and not only in those countries, but England, Italy, etc., what they were doing over there was depolymerizing the acrylic to capture the monomer, and then repolymerizing the monomer back into sheet. And so we kind of naturally we switched gears and started exporting acrylic sheet scrap, not only from that we were getting from American Cyanamid, but also we went to the sign industry. Like all the outdoor signs were made with acrylic, and we would get the trimmings from that, kind of just grind it up, put it in some used Gaylord boxes, and ship it out. And
So acrylic was really the hot recycling item of the day.
well, that was it's a little different because, cast acrylic, not so, there's two different types of acrylic. There's kind of the thermosetting type, the cast acrylic, and then there's also the thermoplastic acrylic, which is extrudable or injection moldable itself. This was the cast acrylic. And really, the only way you could recycle it was basically through a depolymerization process, which was kind of nasty in some ways, where it was a molten lead process where you immersed the plastic in molten lead, and it vaporized, and then kind of like a whiskey still, you distilled the vapors back into a liquid that you could then repolymerize and make whether it's more sheet or other type of little figurines or something.
Less delicious than whiskey.
well, yeah, you're making me a little bit thirsty here, George.
So it's only almost one. We can't.
But let's, and you've had this amazing career, and we'll talk a little bit about how your organization has pivoted. But how and why did you get involved in SPE?
Well, I was looking for networking, looking to make contacts, and that was what I thought was a good way of doing it. My business partner at the time, he was an SPE member, and so I kind of followed his lead on that. And really, I wasn't really active as per se there. I was more of a passive type member, which I think probably most members are, especially maybe nowadays there. But the organization was considerably bigger I think there was, I don't know how many just in the United States. I think, numbers like 30,000 or something like that was that were members. But they had, it's the Chicago section. There were monthly meetings there. So it was a good place to meet people. I made presentations there, which was also kind of a little challenge sometimes because here these people came after working all day. They had a big dinner, maybe a couple drinks, there after dinner. And so then after everything, the dinner was done, as we usually went into a room or it was done there. And at that time, everything was done with slides. So the lights went down and stood on the stage. And so, and you gave your presentation, and inevitably, there would be people nodding off and falling asleep.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
So I decided, so I learned to kind of not take that personally there, but because I was speaking with some other guys, they said that was just a common occurrence there in that time. But I traveled around and went to the different sections. It was a good way of promoting our company here because you're kind of talking from a more of an expertise type perspective, not just a sales job there. So it was worthwhile to do that. But I don't really can't put my finger on it, but I just kind of dropped out there. Uh, maybe it was because as got older, got married, had kids, we moved. There was some time constraints still, kind of operating the business, etc. But after being out for 25 years or so, I thought it was time to kind of, resurrect that because did have more time and rejoined. Oh gosh, I guess it's about 4 or 5 years ago. I rejoined the SPE and kind of became more active that time, and it was all worthwhile. I'd recommend it. To put away the Game Boys or whatever it is and join the organization. It'll be much more valuable as you get older.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's how I met you, how I got to know you. And yeah. Sorry, Lynzie, go ahead.
Oh, I mean, I was just gonna say, so you were Mercedes said you were the past chair of the recycling
Right.
division.
Yeah. Prior to, well, it's a Mercedes now, or the one before is John. He's the past chair, and I'm the past chair.
Past chair. Yeah.
Past. We can accept that title.
Yeah.
So you'd mentioned giving talks at the Chicago section back in the day. You actually gave a talk last year. And there you talked about how your business was affected by the era of embargo when gas prices and oil prices rose. Can you discuss that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, this is sort of, kind of like an up and down type business on let's call it on the oil front, with oil products. There's boom and bust cycles, et cetera. And so when the oil embargo hit, is that you couldn't get anything. I mean, gas lines, et cetera. There were a plastic resin kind of became almost impossible to get. There were cost controls put on virgin material that limited what the resin companies could charge for their material. But there wasn't anything, any type of cost controls on, let's call it secondary type materials, whether it was, scrap plastic or off-grade plastic, et cetera. So what that did is that then allowed the price to float. And so the actual recycled material stuff cost a lot more than virgin material. I mean, like a lot more, like double and stuff like that, because you would be able to buy it, and so that I guess what was one of the effects. But on the flip side of the coin, because the material became so dear as far as availability and the cost, et cetera, is that everyone was using every little bit that they possibly can of the material. There was really very minimal amount of scrap that was being generated. So that was sort of the flip side. You could sell everything you could get, but it was very difficult getting it.
Wow, so it's almost like these kind of dire times force us to be more sustainable in some ways, right?
I was gonna say tricky, but same thing. George, what do you see as some of the biggest challenges in recycling right now?
Well, I think it's pretty obvious here is it's for the industry itself, and this is something that kind of has repeated itself, and that 25 years ago or whatever it was back, I think it was like in the 70s or whatever it is, that we had a landfill crisis where the Environmental Protection Agency kind of changed the rules. They made disposing of waste, they've added regulations that tighten things up as far as leaching into the ground and, debris flying in the air, et cetera. So it made landfills more difficult. I mean, as far as the commissioning of new landfills. So as the landfills were getting filled up, the availability of disposing of them into new landfills wasn't available.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. You're probably too young to remember, but maybe you read it in your history books. There was a barge that kind of spurred this whole landfill crisis that made it explode into everybody's consciousness.
What happened with the barge?
Well, the barge was loaded up with garbage in Long Island, and it was going to be and a lot of that garbage, was plastic, plastic bags and cups and all kinds of all the trash. And the barge was going to go down to somewhere to North Carolina, I believe, because there was some landfill space there. But as it was going down, the media or the news got a hold of this, that this was, there's no landfill in New York, and we have to ship the material down to North Carolina. And then the people down in North Carolina says, we're not a garbage dumping ground.
Right.
Here, once they found that out, and so they refused landing. And so the barge then kind of went down to, I think it was Belize.
Wow. There. So it's definitely, it sounds, so maybe we're too young to remember it, but the history has definitely been repeating itself, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think I heard the other day that, I forget which country it is in Europe, but some country in Europe has now run out of landfill space as well. Was it Belgium or something?
Yeah, I really don't know. Yeah. So
too many chocolate wrappers.
Yeah, but this exporting of scrap, I mean, the plastic industry has been doing that now. Getting maybe notoriety rather than a positive aspect. We used to send it to China. The Chinese said we're not a garbage dumping ground, and then it was Vietnam and then other places. And there was a big article just recently in one of the major newspapers, the New York Times, where there is now efforts made to ship the plastic garbage to Kenya. There again is kind of make our problem somebody else's problem.
Right. And you know, and then it's garbage, right? It's not sorted or anything like that. Well, you know,
there is some sorting,
oh, there
but
is?
it's still, well, you know, it's not like garbage, you know,
Yeah.
the stuff that goes into our curbside recycling bins is far from pristine
Mm-hmm.
there. And what, as I understand it, that's not really the aspect of business that I'm in,
Mm-hmm.
of recycling. But it's my understanding that as time has gone on, that the quality of that material has continued to deteriorate insofar as people are throwing other stuff in there. And that's kind of what is making it more problematic as
Right.
far as recovering that. So,
not to mention in Chicago here with the waste management scandal that we had a few years ago, right?
oh yeah, I can't remember about that. There's been
Oh,
so
you know,
many.
it was just an issue. There was one of these companies that claimed to be recycling material, and it was just they were just all putting it in the garbage. But
Well,
I mean,
yeah, Chicago is you know.
well, I think,
Okay.
you know, there's quite a bit of that going on now, not
Right.
just in Chicago, but because, you know, we produce the trash, whatever, every single day, and you might put it in your blue bin, but if there's no market for it, that's where it ends up.
Right.
right.
I remember calling, you know, my previous company, we would have some, you know, polystyrene scrap. And I, you know, obviously I have connections in the industry, and it was like, hey, I'm willing to drive this to your facility. And I could not get anybody to take polystyrene to recycle. So just, we only have a couple minutes left, and it's a big question, but,
Oh man.
you know, as we mentioned, you know, the recycling rates are not, I mean, globally, they're not where we want them to be. And definitely in the US, they're not where we want them to be. But what can we do to improve our recycling rates? And what can we do as an industry? And what can we do as consumers?
And sum it up in one sentence.
Easy. Bottle bills, or, you know, deposits.
Mm-hmm.
If there was a deposit, you know, on like there is on the bottles, the rates are considerably higher as far as recycling, the cleanliness, et cetera. And you could do that basically on all plastic packaging products there, as far as putting on some type of deposit, so that when someone returns it. Right now, why does it end up in the garbage? Because there's no value. So now if they go to a recycling center and get, you know, 10 cents, 20 cents, whatever it is, there's no doubt that you're going to improve those recycling rates. And if you make it even higher, you know, that's, you know, everyone, you'll solve the litter problem. If you make it like 25 cents, you'd have even people like me. If I saw a plastic bag on the ground, I'd pick it up
Right.
rather than walking by. So
right, but traditionally, I think one of the issues is these you know, carbonated soft drink companies don't support bottle bills. But it it seems to be one of the most effective ways of getting people to recycle.
Yeah, I think they've done a very effective job with their lobbying there on that, but because it's a known, you know, just a few years ago, Oregon raised its bottle, you know, redemption from a nickel to a dime, and it went from something like 60% to 80%, you know, recovery, and you go up to, you know, like I said, if you do it more, you know, pay more, you'll even have a better return. Plus, you can also solve, you know, one of the big aspects of, you know, the costs in that, which is collection. Here, you have to send a truck.
George, I hate to do this, but it's John.
Yeah.
You know, I love to hear you educate me every time we talk. But Lynzie, Mercedes, thank you. We have to stay on target. Laura Thompson's up next, and I also want to introduce Chris. Are you online, Chris? Yeah, there you are. Chris Subrecht. He's going to be our moderator for this afternoon. I want to thank Chris for his time. And Chris, I'll leave it up to you to introduce Laura and get us started.
Thanks, everyone.
And Mercedes, Lynzie.
All right, thanks.